Dwight Drummond, with cases of police violence against people of color under renewed scrutiny right now, we are expecting a decision tomorrow in the high-profile Devontae Miller case here in the GTA. Off-duty Toronto police officer Michael Theroux and his brother are both charged with aggravated assault and obstruction of justice in a case dating back nearly 4 years now. Devontae Miller was beaten so severely he lost an eye. Lorena Redekop has more.
For a case that's garnered so much attention, the courthouse will be empty. The judge's decision will come over YouTube, given the pandemic, a publication ban on broadcasting it. People will still gather outside to show support for Devontae Miller, just like they did during the trial.
Irrespective of what the case and the verdict is tomorrow, it's not going to stop the pursuit of justice for Devontae and his family and other Black community members who have either lost family members.
Miller's injuries were horrific. His eye had to be removed. Initially, he was the one charged with theft. That was dropped months later after his lawyer alerted the police watchdog. Instead, off-duty Toronto police officer Michael Theroux and his younger brother Christian were charged. They say it was self-defense, that they caught Miller and his friend breaking into their parents' truck. They chased him and he had a pipe. Here's part of Christian Theroux's witness statement.
I heard it hitting my brother, definitely, and then running in, I got hit right over the head on it because he was just swinging it at us.
He reported minor injuries. Michael Theroux didn't report any. In court, Michael Theroux said he repeatedly punched Miller as hard as he could, fearing for his life and his brother's, but never used the pipe. In its final written submissions to the judge, the defense wrote that this case is not about race and not about excessive use of force. It says the narratives advanced by Miller at trial and through his lawyer bear no resemblance to what actually happened. And also said neither the complainant, the defendants, nor the community are entitled to a particular result.
Black Lives Matter!
Since the trial, the issues of anti-Black racism and police brutality have erupted, following the killing of George Floyd in the United States. This lawyer expects the judge will mention that different context.
Although judges are essentially making a decision about the specific case that is before them, what they're also doing is speaking to why the law is what it is. And so justice is not just done, but it must be seen to be done.
Miller's supporters say this case has interest around the world, and with a judgment being streamed online, may even be watched by people outside Canada. Lorena Redekop, CBC News, Toronto.
If we could live every day knowing that we could lose someone at any moment, we would love that person fiercely. Rest in peace with the angels. Carolina, Clara, Lilia, Mila.
As a Caledon mother and her 3 children are laid to rest, police announced charges against the man allegedly behind the wheel of the car that caused the tragedy. 20-year-old Brady Robertson is facing 4 counts of dangerous operation of a vehicle causing death and an additional charge of dangerous operation of a vehicle from an incident a few days earlier. It comes as the funeral for Carolina Chisulo and her 3 children took place in Brampton. Talia Ricci joins us live from the crash site. And Talia, we are now learning more about the gentleman in the middle of this investigation.
That's right, Dwight, and the memorial here at the crash site does continue to grow. We know that Brady Robertson was already scheduled to appear in court in August for a breach of probation for another case, and he also had previous charges in other courts. Posts on social media, as well as a friend of his that I spoke with today, shared that Robertson had a troubled past. And as you can imagine, the funeral today in Brampton was very emotional.
4 white caskets entered a church in Brampton today alongside a grief-stricken father.
Carolina, Clara, Lily, and Mila were Michael's girls. They were his entire world.
Many unable to hold back their tears.
I'm going to miss CARE's calls to talk about Christmas gifts and planning in October. I'm going to miss Clara's smile when she would say, "Hi, Zia." I'm going to miss trying to steal hugs and kisses from Lily. I'm going to miss the pictures that CARE would send me of Mimi stuffing her face with food because she knew those would make my day.
The driver at the center of the horrific crash, 20-year-old Brady Robertson, has been charged with 4 counts of dangerous operation of a vehicle causing death. Last Thursday, police say Robertson was traveling eastbound on Countryside Road in a blue Infiniti when it collided with the family's Volkswagen, which then hit a light pole. Robertson then collided head-on with a Honda that was stopped westbound on Countryside Road at the red light. Robertson has also been charged in connection to this incident 2 days earlier, when the Infiniti rolled off the road and sped off when people tried to help. The OPP saw the speeding vehicle shortly after, but said it was too dangerous to pursue. Anthony McMullen says he was close with Robertson when they both lived in Ladysmith, BC.
I hope this sentence will be commensurate with the crime. This is murder. 4 innocent lives were taken through reckless driving, and I really hope this individual will end up behind bars for a very long time.
Now, Brown says that he believes there will be further charges. Robertson is set to appear in court next on July 23rd, and the SIU investigation is still ongoing. Dwight?
Talia, thank you. Peel police have arrested a man after a 13-hour standoff in Brampton today. Police were called to a home in the Highway 10 and Collingwood Avenue area just after 1 this morning for reports of a person in distress. A large number of officers converged on the scene, including negotiators, crisis officers, and tactical officers. Police made contact with the man who was alone in the residence. Around 2 this afternoon, the man came out of the house. Police say he was taken to hospital for an assessment. The intersection of Gorway and Morning Star in Mississauga continued to be blocked today over the death of Ijaz Chowdhury. The 62-year-old was fatally shot by Peel police during a call for a mental health crisis.
We need peace, and the only people that is creating disturbance in the community is the actions of the police. We're gonna be here until we get justice.
Dozens of friends, family, and community members have been protesting against the police for the past week. Family members of Chowdhury are calling for the officers who shot and killed him to be fired. He is the 3rd Canadian in the last month to be killed after what police carried out what they call a wellness check.
You cannot say that a system which sees people in crisis calling out for help and ending up losing their lives, you cannot say that is a system that is working.
Amid protests and calls for action, Mayor Tory unveils his plan for reforming Toronto police. Part of it, a new non-police response team for calls that do not involve weapons or violence. Greg Ross has more on the mayor's proposal and reaction tonight.
Systemic racism continues to be a real issue here in Toronto, and there is much more all of us can do and must do to confront it and to eliminate it.
While the mayor acknowledges there's a problem in the city, he wasn't willing to go so far as to commit to reducing the $1.1 billion police budget.
We have to rethink, in some cases, whether police represent the right community response at all. I strongly support this re-examination because I think we need to ask and answer these questions now.
The mayor says he is committed to detasking police by creating a non-police response team for calls that don't involve weapons or violence, increased funding of programs that support Indigenous, Black and marginalized communities, and more support for those dealing with mental health issues. To fund this, he's asking the Auditor General to look at where money can be saved in the police budget. Cyrus Marcus Ware is a core team member with Black Lives Matter in Toronto.
I think what we're seeing is a continuation of not enough.
Black Lives Matter has been calling for the city to defund police by 50%.
We're not seeing a really clear direction of what it is that they're planning on doing, and this is part of a strategy to try to push this off until people forget about it or until it's out of the news cycle.
Samar Bola is a U of T medical student and co-founder of the group Doctors for Defunding Police. He pointed to the death of 62-year-old Ijaz Chowdhury, shot by Peel police in Mississauga Sunday, as a perfect example of a situation where a non-police response may have been more effective.
We want people who are from these communities who actually care about us, who know that these are our neighbors, your cousin, your family. That is how we get out of this situation. And other cities have done this.
The head of the Toronto Police Union said in some ways today's announcement is demonizing officers, but wasn't entirely opposed to investigating the possibility of detasking.
I think that's a good idea. We should always look at the best practices. And we've had a discussion going on in this province for the last 10 years about what is core policing. And again, we in the police community are in the association that I represent, are not opposed to that. We should look at the best practices.
This is not the only police reform motion that will go before City Council. Next week, a motion put forward by Councillor Josh Matlow will be voted on. It calls for a 10% reduction in police funding. Greg Ross, CBC News, Toronto.
And Toronto police releasing video of a shootout today that started with gunmen pulling onto the shoulder of Highway 401, then shooting into a crowd gathered in a parking lot. The large group had gathered outside for a memorial to Demario Jenkins, also known as the rapper Houdini, who was shot and killed downtown back in May. Someone in a dark-colored vehicle pulled over and started shooting into the crowd. Police say up to 10 people in the crowd pulled out guns and returned fire. 2 men, both in their 20s, suffered gunshot wounds and took themselves to hospital. Goodale O'Neill Ledenick of Milton and Traquan Mahoney of Brampton were both arrested and charged, accused of shooting towards the highway. Investigators say more than 60 shell casings of various caliber were recovered at the scene. Terrell Burke Whitaker of Brampton and Javante Johnson from Pickering are also both wanted in connection to the shooting. And police say they have made a handful of arrests after a person with a gun was reported at a downtown hotel. Officers were called to the Chelsea near Yonge and Gerrard this morning. Callers reported there was a person with a gun in the hotel and items were being thrown off a balcony. 4 people now in custody. The number of new COVID-19 cases in Ontario is again below 200 today. Meanwhile, the Premier was asked what he thinks of the Canadian border being reopened to international travelers.
I know it's inevitable, we got to do it. I just don't think we're ready right now. You see what's happening down in the States. You look at Florida, you look at Texas, Arizona, California. I don't want to be those states. I want to protect the people here in Ontario, and I just think we're opening it up too early if the decision's made on July the 21st.
Ontario recorded 189 new cases of COVID-19 today. The number of people in hospital with confirmed cases is down to 270 from 278 a day earlier. CBC News is reporting the COVID-19 death toll in the province is at 2,679. 81% of all reported COVID-19 deaths in Canada have occurred in long-term care facilities, and a new study shows that rate to be about twice the average of other developed countries. Prime Minister Trudeau was asked about a study by the Canadian Institute for Health Information. In his answer, he pointed the finger at the provinces. Now take a listen to that and a response from Premier Doug Ford.
Our current system of supporting our seniors across this country has not worked. It is a provincial responsibility, so it is them who have failed to support our seniors. But of course, the federal government is happy to be there to help. We want to respect provincial jurisdictions, but I think we know things need to change.
Put your money where your mouth is. Help us out. We can't do it alone. You know, support us. He's been very supportive, by the way, but I'm a little shocked with his comment, to be very frank with you. We're supposed to be all in this together. Let's all be in this together.
Prime Minister Justin Trudeau also made it clear today there is no way his government will try to stop the extradition of Huawei executive Meng Wanzhou to the United States. That's in response to a call by nearly 20 prominent Canadians to do just that. Catherine Cullen has more on Trudeau's refusal.
Randomly arresting Canadians doesn't give you leverage over the government of Canada anywhere in the world.
The Prime Minister didn't just close the door, he slammed it shut, saying no to the prospect of releasing Huawei executive Meng Wanzhou from her extradition process in hopes that China would release imprisoned Canadians Michael Kovrig and Michael Spavor. Justin Trudeau was responding to a letter from 19 prominent Canadians, including former Foreign Affairs Ministers Lawrence Cannon and Lloyd Axworthy. It says the two Michaels are in conditions tantamount to torture and that it is in Canada's best interests to end the Meng extradition proceeding and to bring the two Michaels home.
So I respect these individuals, but they're wrong in their approach.
The Prime Minister said such a move could endanger millions of Canadians.
If the Chinese government concludes from this exchange and this interaction that it is an effective way to gain leverage over Canadians and over the Canadian government to randomly arrest Canadians, then no Canadian will be safe going forward.
But Kovrig's wife says there will be no simple solution to this situation.
Like, I can appreciate why people say that there will be challenges with this particular option. I agree. But what is an alternative?
The Conservative leader is among those calling for a tougher approach to get the two men released.
Justin Trudeau needs to stop his policy of appeasement, stand up for Canada, improve our situation, give us more leverage.
The Prime Minister did leave the door open today to sanctions against Chinese officials or a crackdown on visas, but it has been 564 days since the two Michaels were arrested, and there is no clear end in sight. Catherine Cullen, CBC News, Ottawa.
Felt almost perfect out there, especially when you're in the sunshine today, but the heat is being turned up even more.
It is, yeah. I'm thinking back to last weekend. We had that heat and humidity just in time for the weekend again. Heat and humidity. This was a little bit of a break from it. Temperatures right about the seasonal mark today. We hit 26 degrees briefly. We're at 25 degrees right now with the Humidex. Not much. 26 is really what it feels like. But this is all changing going through the next 24 to 48 hours. Now, before we get to that, there's a few showers and some thunderstorms that have popped up across the region there. This really just triggered off by a lake breeze. I don't think we're going to see any of these in the GTA tonight, but we may see a few short-lived cells. I'm just watching a couple of clouds forming up around the Markham area, but I don't think we're going to see anything develop from that. Once the sun starts to set, we're done with any kind of risk for rainfall for tonight. Broadly speaking, most of it has sort of stayed down toward the London area. Now, that's not the case heading into tomorrow night. Tomorrow morning, we've got sunshine in the forecast. Same story for the most part across tomorrow afternoon, but Windsor starts to pick up rain through tomorrow sort of late afternoon into the evening. And then for us in the GTA, after about the midnight hour, good round of rain and thunderstorms headed toward the GTA. It kind of lingers into Saturday, and then the forecast looks really good heading through the long-range forecast. Here's what you can expect through the next 24 hours. Again, 23 degrees tonight. Slight chance of seeing a few showers through the evening hours tonight. 17 through the overnight. 28 tomorrow. Feels like 32. There's the humidity coming back in, and it gets even warmer than that. Full details in just a bit.
Thank you, Nick.
You bet.
The weather is brought to you by Trane, the most reliable heating and cooling brand. We test, so it runs. It's hard to stop a train.
Man, this thing comes back. That's what concerns me. So we have to stay focused, and we can't let our guard down for a heartbeat. We let our guard down, and look what happened to Florida. Look what happened to California and Arizona and Texas. That's what happens when you're reckless, you're careless, and you let your guard down.
Premier Doug Ford warning Ontarians not to ease up on following coronavirus restrictions, pointing to a surge in the southern U.S. Almost 35,000 cases were reported yesterday, the highest daily total in 2 months. The trend is a serious public health issue, and it is also still very political. Stephen D'Souza has more.
In Myrtle Beach, the sun is out, signs are up, but few seem to be paying attention.
I haven't seen any attempts to protect anybody from anything. I think people just don't care anymore, honestly. I really don't.
South Carolina is one of many states seeing a surge in coronavirus cases.
Everyone now needs to understand the spread of COVID-19 is real in the state of Texas.
In Texas, they've set records for new cases the last 2 days, more than 5,000 each day. Governor Greg Abbott ordered hospitals today to free up space and paused the next phase of the state's reopening.
If you do not need to go out and go to work or have to go to the store or engage in some other activity, the best thing that you can do is to just stay at home.
California, the first state to issue a stay-at-home order, is also setting records for new cases this week, more than 7,000 on Tuesday.
Many of us, understandably, developed a little cabin fever. Others have just, frankly, taken down their guard.
The president continues to say increased cases are from higher testing, but experts say positive results are rising faster.
And that's not a good thing. That means that either means that we're not testing enough people, or it means that more and more people are getting sick, or probably a combination of the two.
Another challenge, mask wearing is a political issue, a debate about personal freedom versus public health.
People are shaming each other. There needs to be special shopping hours for people who can't wear masks.
Mark Schreim says some places like Texas need to shut down again, but that's unlikely to happen.
Houston has only 6% of its ICU beds left. So it's necessary to lock down, but there's no longer the will to do that. I think that's going to be the scariest part of what happens next.
The president tweeted today that the media is not reporting an important fact. The death rate has fallen. But Schreim says that statistic shouldn't provide comfort because deaths often come days or weeks after cases spike. Stephen D'Souza, CBC News, New York.
After the break, a new report highlights how women's homelessness has become a crisis here in Canada.
I've been attacked so many times. I had all my ribs broken, my nose broken, black eyes, for getting into fights. And I'm not a fighter. No, I'm not a fighter at all.
With Toronto now in stage 2 of reopening, the city is beefing up its network of bike lanes. 2 downtown active TO cycling network connections will be installed before the weekend, according to the city. The mayor tweeting out a photo of a stretch of new separated bike lanes along University between Adelaide West and Bloor West. By Friday, separated bike lanes spanning 1.5 kilometers will be nearly completed along Bloor Street between Avenue and Sherbourne. A new report says Canada is failing homeless women and that many of them are slipping through the cracks. Advocates are calling for more women-only shelters, places where women can get support for their unique physical and emotional trauma. One such facility just opened up in Brampton. Alicia Son has more.
I've been attacked so many times. I had all my ribs broken, my nose broken, black eyes, for getting into fights. And I'm not a fighter.
Maria Lido says homelessness is a man's world.
At one point, maybe a couple of weeks ago, I said, I don't want to live with a man. I don't want a man. I can support myself.
It's just too dangerous to trust some people when living on the streets. How do you protect yourself now?
I carry a knife on me.
The Women's National Housing and Homelessness Network is out with a report that basically says Canada is failing women like Maria Lido. Well, today we spoke with 3 women in Brampton who know all about the issue. The city just opened up their first all-women's shelter with 8 beds.
It is literally a house. It has a kitchen, it happens to have 2 living rooms, it has bedrooms, it has bathrooms.
Deborah Riddle is the program lead with the Elizabeth Fry Society, which has been doing this kind of work for 45 years. Riddle says homeless women are generally less visible.
Normally when a woman becomes homeless, she will reach out to friends or family to see if she's able to couch surf, or sometimes if there is an embarrassment issue such as I've lost my job, or maybe I've had an addiction and it's gotten away from me. Now I'm in a position where I really don't want to go to a family or a friend. Maybe I'll try and sleep, I see other people sleeping in public spaces, maybe I can be safe in that public space. But what we find with women is that, they become in a position of being preyed upon.
And that vulnerability makes the homeless woman's trauma much different than the male experience.
The importance of having a women's only shelter is huge. So we have a co-ed shelter in Mississauga, but the trauma that's attached to some of these women, it's re-traumatizing to go in. It's not a safe place. So having a safe place for women to go is going to be so important in their recovery, in their healing, in their success. I think it's a great place to start, but I think those beds are going to fill up very quickly.
Maria Lido is certainly looking forward to having a night without looking over her shoulder.
Do you think our cities really understand the scope of women in homelessness?
No.
How many women are out there?
They don't understand.
Take it from her.
I've been there, I've done that.
Ali Chiasson, CBC News, Brampton.
After the break, the insanity comes to an official end. Plus,
I'm not just supposed to be a pastor, I'm supposed to be a woman.
It was one of the scariest yet bravest things she's ever done. A pastor has shared her truth with her congregation. I'm Angelina King in Mississauga. I'll have more on her story and how her message is helping others. That's coming up.
A pastor in Mississauga has taken a big leap of faith. In an online sermon, June Joplin says she did one of the scariest things in her life. She spoke her truth, and her message is already helping others at Lorne Park Baptist Church to feel more accepted and loved. Angelina King has her story.
God has a way of guiding you to the moment when you can't do anything else but speak your big, risky truth, no matter how much trouble it gets you into.
It started as a sermon about embracing truth. It ended with a pastor sharing hers.
That I'm not just supposed to be a pastor, I'm supposed to be a woman. Hi, friends. Hi, family. My name is Junia. You can call me June. I'm a transgender woman, and my pronouns are she and her.
June Joplin says she questioned her gender identity for most of her life, but she could never connect it with anything concrete until recently.
Just saying that out loud to another human being for the first time ever is just, it's scary.
2 years ago, she began coming out, first to her spouse and a few close friends, eventually telling her children and other family. They've been a major source of support, including when it came to telling her congregation at Lorne Park Baptist Church.
I was shaking and anxious, but as the moment got closer, I felt a sense of kind of calm and a sense of determination that I was about to say things that just could not go unsaid.
And after a moment with her eldest son.
He just held me and I held him and I cried, and it was such a tender moment. But just, you know, there's a sense of release. There's a sense of being kind of liberated from a burden.
She knew she was taking a big risk. So far, she's received an outpouring of support.
I was just crying the whole time. And I think I've watched it maybe 2 or 3 more times.
For 19-year-old Jasmine Smith, who's navigating her own journey of coming out as gay, the sermon was inspiring.
Kind of lost touch with faith in the last few years. This is something that I think I really needed to hear. So many people, just like, even just in the media or elsewhere, who make me question everything and if who I am is okay. And if my pastor can be part of this community, then surely I can too.
Joplin gets emotional when she talks about LGBTQ youth who don't feel accepted, especially by their church, and the statistics about how that can correlate with suicidal thoughts. She hopes her message reaches those who need it.
I believe in a God who calls you a beloved daughter, even when your parents insist that you'll always be their son.
The church says it's expressed love for Joplin and her identity as a woman, but whether she remains the lead pastor is still up in the air.
If I never work another day in the church again for the rest of my life, like, I'll know that, like, I've done what I was called to do.
Creating an accepting space and a sense of hope. Angelina King, CBC News, Mississauga.
Today, former Toronto Raptors superstar Vince Carter announced he has officially retired from professional basketball.
He's in the weight room, so he's stitched up in the left hand doing all this.
Oh, it's over, ladies and gentlemen.
Yes, it was. Carter was selected 5th overall by Golden State and traded to Toronto at the 1998 NBA draft. He was nicknamed Half Man, Half Amazing for his high-flying dunks and capped it off by winning the 2000 NBA Slam Dunk Contest. Carter saw the most success of his career in his first 7 years with the Raptors before they traded the 8-time All-Star to New Jersey. He was public enemy #1 in Toronto for a long time after he left, but fans have since warmed to the man who is seen as the reason basketball is so popular in Canada. His 22 seasons are the most in NBA history, and he became the first NBA player to appear in 4 different decades. Carter retires at the age of 43. Just incredible. This York Regional Police detective is hoping to put cleats to feet and smiles on faces with a major donation to children in Jamaica.
I'm wearing the work shoes Not sure if I'm able to do more than one. The genesis of this initiative started 3 weeks ago. I was grieving the death of my father and my mother, and we decided to just take a walk to a local park. While I was juggling the soccer ball, I thought to myself, how can I remember, our parents? They were very generous in the community where we're from in Hanover, Jamaica. Okay, I have a challenge for all my soccer friends. And I thought to myself, well, maybe I can record myself juggling the soccer ball. I will challenge all my friends. We posted on our Facebook page, and I challenged my friends to say, hey, if you're brave enough to take on my challenge, I will make a donation to my small community.
If you would like to help, you can video yourself juggling your own soccer ball and just share it with social media.
Most of the people that have challenged me, they beat my score. A friend of mine, daughter, she took the soccer ball and she juggled the ball 110 times. Another friend of mine juggled the soccer ball 310 times. All right, my daughter juggled the balls 5 times, but then she got down on her knees and she did some push-ups. It's so encouraging knowing that people are willing to be vulnerable just to support a small idea of collecting soccer cleats, soccer ball, jerseys, or any school utensils to be sent back to Hanover, Jamaica, where I'm from.
It is a great initiative, but I would be doing the push-ups. I think I can get up to maybe 3, man. I was never really good at that.
I was just going to say, I've been playing with my kid, and same thing. I try to impress him, but I just end up making a fool out of myself. So
I'm with you, sir.
Yeah, he's 4, almost 4, and I think he can do better than me on that. Look, we talked about the heat and the humidity that's headed our way. It certainly is. That's going to be the story heading into the weekend, except that we also have a little bit of rain to deal with. Other than that, though, good-looking forecast. So here's how it plays out. Humidity returns starting tomorrow, even tonight. Tomorrow night, we've got some showers and thunderstorms to deal with, and then lots of sunshine, and especially as we head through Sunday and in the long-range forecast. Right now, we're sitting at 25 degrees. We briefly hit 26 degrees in the city. With a humidex, it really isn't that much more. It's 26 is what it feels like, but we're going to see the humidity notch up as we head through the next 24 to 36 hours. Now, today, by and large, we've had sunshine or a mix of sun and cloud. What you're seeing here with these rain showers really is just triggered off by a lake breeze. And that's all it is. So some instability in the atmosphere, seeing some stuff just kind of popping up around the Kitchener area right now. Other than that, if you see it, it'll be short-lived tonight. Really what we're talking about is tomorrow night. So clear skies, or mostly clear skies tonight. Same story into tomorrow morning. Starts to cloud over later in the day. Rain showers in southwestern Ontario. And then GTA not till after about midnight tomorrow. And that lasts into Saturday morning and then tapering sort of showers. So the chance of seeing some spotty showers on Saturday as well. In terms of how much rain we can expect, it looks like the models have slowly started to push it more south. So actually GTA not seeing too much, but I wouldn't put too much stock in those numbers. It's just kind of a broad range. I do think we're going to see some showers or thunderstorms across the Golden Horseshoe in GTA as well. Generally speaking, non-severe, although southwestern Ontario has the chance of picking up some stronger thunderstorms as we head through tomorrow. Tonight, 17 degrees across the city. Tomorrow up to 28 degrees. Pretty nice day in store. Humidex values approaching 32. A little bit of lingering showers on Saturday. Then temperatures 29, probably even 30 for Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday. And humidex values close to the mid-30s. So back into that real nice summer weather once again. Dwayne.
Looking good as we head towards Canada Day. Thank you, Nick.
Yeah, you bet.
One of the last parts of the country allowed to move further into reopening now has the green light. In most of Windsor, Essex, salons, pools, malls, and patios can now welcome patrons. But there were 2 municipalities that are still being kept in stage 1. Chris Ensing now with more from Windsor.
A big day in Windsor. The patios and the hair salons are open. Parts of Windsor, Essex County got the green light this morning, which has created a big change here in our community. Just yesterday morning, there were businesses protesting, frustrated because they weren't allowed to reopen with the rest of Ontario. They said that that's creating financial hardships they just can't really deal with. They might not be able to survive. But that all shifted once Premier Ford gave that green light. But he didn't give it to Kingsville and Leamington. And the big reason, again, One is because of what's happening on farms in the region. Mass amounts of migrant workers have tested positive for COVID-19. 3 people who are migrant workers have died in Ontario after testing positive for COVID-19. And that's created this sort of line amongst Windsor-Essex of places that can reopen, something that people here enjoying the freedoms they now have are thinking about as they sit on a patio like this one right here behind me.
People are recognizing the conditions that migrant workers have here, and they are part of the food supply chain that we have here. Without migrant workers, we wouldn't have restaurants open with a patio. So the fact that people are starting to recognize the conditions that they're under and start to realize that, yeah, they need to be taken care of before we can take care of ourselves, really. They're part of our community.
And when it comes to that 3-point plan that Premier Ford has mentioned for the agri-farm sector that will allow them, they say, to prevent the spread of COVID-19, is one point in particular that advocates for migrant workers have really taken issue with. The idea that asymptomatic workers who have tested positive for COVID-19 can continue to work. Now, health officials that announced this said it will be something that they'll have to wear PPE and make sure that they're distancing while they're at work. But the living conditions, which have been a focal point of critics during all of this that the temporary foreign workers experience on some farms, the asymptomatic positive COVID-19 workers would be told to stay in the same area, not with other workers. Now, the government sees this as a way to move forward and to try and get a handle on what's going on, while also encouraging farmers to get their workers tested. But all of this has really created a tense kind of vibe here in Windsor-Essex, as a large part of the area allows to be reopened, and places in Kingsville and Leamington are stuck waiting, wondering what happens next for them. Chris Hensing, CBC News, Windsor.
When we come back, we look at the latest studies when it comes to coronavirus, herd immunity, and antibody testing. Plus, why some young men are raising money for food banks with a 2,000-kilometer canoe trip.
A few months ago, we started just looking at the numbers, looking at the news, started realizing like our dreams this summer of going back to Camp Amick weren't going to happen due to COVID. And we were really bummed out about that. So we were like, how can we like make a difference? How can we still do something fun this summer and help our community?
New research is offering the first clues about developing immunity to COVID-19. It is revealing how long antibodies to the virus last in those who showed no symptoms or had mild symptoms. The study could have implications for herd immunity and antibody testing. Christine Birak explains.
One key to unlocking this pandemic is figuring out whether patients who've already had the virus have lasting immunity. A new study suggests for a significant portion of those infected, immunity may diminish within months.
I think it's amazingly important as far as the information it provides.
Chinese researchers compared 37 asymptomatic people to 37 who had mild COVID-19 symptoms. Researchers found more than 90% of participants in both groups had only low levels of antibodies in their blood just 2 to 3 months after being infected. In 40% of asymptomatic cases, no antibodies could be detected after 8 weeks.
It starts to kind of give us some information about what the immune response looks like.
When a virus enters the body, our immune system creates antibodies to stick to it, so the virus can't enter our cells. Having few or no lasting antibodies doesn't necessarily mean the person can be reinfected right away. Other virus-killing cells might jump into action, but experts say it does cast doubt on antibody testing.
Until we know exactly what part of the immune system is protective, it's difficult to be able to do a test and tell someone you're safe or not.
In 1/3 of asymptomatic patients, the Chinese study also found lung damage that's been seen in COVID-19 patients. Experts say larger studies are certainly needed, but it's estimated at least 20% of those infected with this coronavirus are asymptomatic. If those patients do not have protective immunity, things will get tricky.
That means people can be infected, and that means we can't rely on herd immunity to protect the population. We really need the vaccine.
And it will have to offer people something the virus itself may not: strong, longer-lasting protection. Christine Birak, CBC News, Toronto.
When COVID-19 canceled their summer jobs as camp counselors, 6 GTA friends came up with an idea. They would use their outdoor wilderness skills and training for a good cause. They told CBC's Sana Choi about their plans for a 60-day adventure.
I'm Tim Mulligan.
My name is George Caresian.
My name's Kalen Robinson. I'm Jacob Heisey.
I'm Nolan Azes.
I'm Will Vise.
So basically a few months ago, we started just looking at the numbers, looking at the news, started realizing like our dreams this summer of going back to Camp Amick weren't going to happen due to COVID. And we were really bummed out about that. So we were like, how can we like make a difference? How can we still do something fun this summer and help our community? So we decided to do a 60-day canoe trip across Ontario and to raise money for COVID-19 relief.
We started donations and we're donating our money to Food Banks Canada, and we started about a month ago reeling in donations, and now we're already past 50% of our goal, which is $60,000. We're also very excited to announce that 50% of the money we raise will be donated to Indigenous communities that have been affected by COVID-19. Some communities that we've passed through on our previous canoe trips.
We go from Armstrong, Ontario. It's just about dead north of top of Lake Superior and town of Lake Nipigon. Almost out near Thunder Bay, just a bit farther north. Then we're heading down to Lake Superior. We're going to go along the northern shore of Lake Superior to the Michipicoten River. We're going to go up that river, and we're gonna work our way inland. We're gonna go by some nice famous provincial parks like Spanish River, Killarney, French River, Algonquin. We're actually gonna do a portage straight through downtown North Bay along Casella Street. On the 14th of August, I think. And then we're going to wind our way through Algonquin Park to the Ottawa River, and we're going to end in downtown Ottawa on the 24th of August.
We made sure we took every single precaution possible, that we're planned and ready and prepared for this trip and anything that goes wrong. The last thing we want to do is to have an impact on these local hospitals that we go through. So we have all of our 60 days of dry food ready and prepared to be dropped off to us.
We also have some concrete certifications. Like we all have our bronze cross that we need to be staff at our camp, and Kaylin also has his NLS. So we're pretty fairly well prepared for the trip in terms of first aid.
We actually have 2 Global Star spot trackers, and we have a sat phone. So that means that any time in the day we can actually call any number in Canada and get to them and call and say, hey, we have an emergency, we need to meet here. And with the spot trackers, not quite the same thing. It's it's canned messages which are sent out, and then all of the parents will actually receive a message saying, we made it to our campsite.
What was your reaction when they told you about their plans back in March? Are you kidding? Yeah.
Yeah, 18-year-olds out on a trip, but then when we started to listen to what they were doing, and with the advent of COVID and lockdown, and then things are starting to creep along. There was not going to be graduation, not prom, not athletic banquets, no closure, and then camp for all of them was going to be closed, no job, and before that we just thought, you know what, you've got to do it.
We're a little anxious, but so proud of them. What they're doing is absolutely incredible, not just in terms of the trip itself, but also giving back to the community.
And these boys have so much tripping experience, first aid, and they're just smart, really cool kids, and they're going to be great out there. I have no doubt.
It's a very solid arrangement. We have 6 guys and I think an 8-person tent, so I'm sure we'll have enough space to be comfy.
So you're all sleeping in the same
All
tent?
in the same tent, yeah.
Like sardines.
Sardines, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, there you go.
Bring it in, boys.
Canadians are good.
All right. And if you want to donate, you can go to canoeforcovid.com. That's canoeforcovid.com.
Ricky.
Can you explain the attraction?
Oh, his face, his hips.
I know some of you viewers, you were there. When we come back, we throw it back to 1999 when Ricky Martin was the talk of the town.
Ricky.
This week in 1999, Toronto went loca for Ricky Martin.
Can you explain the attraction?
Oh, his face, his hips.
Fresh off of his hit single, Livin' La Vida Loca, the Latin superstar was in Toronto for his only Canadian stop on a promotional tour. In sweltering temperatures, thousands packed Yonge Street in front of Sunrise Records for a chance to see him.
What would you do to see Ricky Martin?
What would I do? You don't even want to know.
There was a false alarm when a bus pulled up. But then, finally, the real deal made his grand entrance. He didn't sing a word, but that did not matter.
See you inside. Are you ready?
I wasn't there personally for Ricky, but I know some of our viewers were out there lined up at Sunrise to get a chance to live La Vida Loca.
Well, you know what, Dwight? I don't know if it was in '99, but it was around that time. When I was going through school, I was doing concert security, right? And actually, I did it during one of his concerts, and I saw him backstage. I mean, he obviously didn't know who I was, but kind of cool. I'm just saying, you know.
You know Ricky.
That's about as close as I got to meeting somebody famous, other than you, of course, right? Anyway, that's my story from 1999 or 2000 or whenever it was back then. I can't remember. Story for tonight, skies are clearing out. Things actually looking pretty nice. Tomorrow, generally a sunny day in the forecast for us. However, tomorrow night, closer to about the midnight hour, that's when we're looking at rain and, well, probably some thunderstorms moving through, mostly toward London, down towards St. Catharines. But nonetheless, we probably see a few rumbles of thunder in the GTA. Kind of cloudy on Saturday, few lingering showers as well in there. But otherwise, Sunday and the rest of the week looks pretty good. There's another look at your next 24 hours. The other thing to note here, 28 degrees tomorrow. But again, it's that humidity that's headed back our way once again, more summer weather.
Right in time for Canada Day, buddy. No complaints there. Thank you, Nick.
Yeah, you too.
That is our show for tonight. Thank you for joining us. Mike Wise has your next local news tonight at 11. Right after the National, we are going to see you back here tomorrow at 6. Have a great night, everybody. What are we going to leave you with tonight? We're going to leave you with a shot of your beautiful city. Looking good in the sunshine. Nick says it's going to stay that way for a while, so enjoy it, even with the heat and the sticky humidity. Have a great night, everybody. We'll see you back here tomorrow.